Hello and welcome into today's mastermind call. For this week, I will be on my laptop, so there'll be a noticeable drop in the quality of the video, both in terms of video quality and the fact that I don't have two screens to work with, my microphone. I don't have a webcam on here. I can actually just turn that on. It shouldn't be too bad. All right. So today I'm going to look at the standard meta, working up to the qualifier this weekend, and look at a deeper dive at one of the new really cool decks, Naya Fury, or Naya Combo, or Naya Adventures, whatever you want to call it. It's a pretty cool deck, playing 4 copies of Unleash the Fury. But I'll get to that in a minute. First off, though, I have shown some of my successful drafts in the group, but I think it's also important to show the unsuccessful ones. And so that's what I'll do here. Right now, I am 0-2 with one of my first tries at red-white. Drafting red-white in this set is actually fairly complicated. It's not really super straightforward, and depending on which sort of creature augmentation spells you have, whether it's equipment or pump spells or removal spells, that should change your creature suite, like which creatures you're actually interested in playing. And so I had a first pick Bergie into second pick Bound Gold, and red was very open and white was like, okay. So I ended up in red-white. My deck looks like this. So I have 3 Bound Gold, Squash, Frostbite, and Dormant Hammer is a 5-drop. And I'm actually down to 15 lands in this build. And this is also not a removal spell. So this is the overview of what my deck looks like. And it's a pretty good curve, right? Like it's, a lot of 2-drops, good amount of 3-drops. We have like some very quality cards, like obviously the Bergie with some of these both creatures. We have like the Craven Hulks and like the Dormant Hammer is great. We have this like pretty good removal spell. Runner Market is great in this type of deck. However, so I thought this deck was going to be very good, but also like the Story Seekers are usually pretty good in red-white. Just helps you win races, and they're very good when buffed. However, the thing is that when you don't have the equipments, and I actually didn't see any equipments outside of the Dwarven Hammer in the entire draft. Like I'm talking Raven Wings, Tormentor's Helm, and Goldwind Pick. I saw none of those in the entire draft. Would have picked them pretty highly, but I did not get the chance to. So sometimes that's kind of outside your control. But I did get some good spells. I also didn't get that many pump spells. I passed on 1 Runner Mark. I could have second pick one after first pick Bergie, but I took the Bound Gold. Since I still have a preference for the 4-color splashy decks, and the front side of Bergie is not very good in those decks, but the backside is. Like it's just kind of vintage card. And Bound Gold also goes well as a splash card. So I figured it would be, if I'm red-white, Bound Gold is also going to be pretty good. Maybe not as good as Runner Mark. And if I'm not an aggro deck, then Runner Mark is going to be a pretty terrible card. So that's why I made that pick. But anyhow, I end up with a fairly good removal suite. But the issue is that when I can't buff my creatures, you look at these Story Seekers, and they're 2/2s with lifelink. So they're like, but against the deck that does not care about raising me, like let's say I'm against any mid-range or controlling deck, this is just a Grizzly Bear. It's just a vanilla 2/2 for 2. It's gonna gain me like 4 or 6 life, however much, but you can't buff it. So it's not gonna like single-handedly take over a race in an aggro mirror. It's just gonna like trade off with something and have gained like 4 life, which is like fairly good in an aggro mirror, but it's not backbreaking. Against non-aggro decks, it's not actually that good. Where normally it would be good if I could buff it. And then you really get to take advantage of lifelink, but I can't. Same with Call of the Forge Master. I don't have equipments, or like I'm playing this stupid Rune of Speed, or just to have another aura to work with it, but it's not that good. I have the Dwarven Hammer too, but so Call in most of the games is just going to be a vanilla 2/2 for 2. Now, vanilla 2/2s for 2 can be pretty nice if you have ways to augment them, like if I have equipments or auras or something, like mass pump effects. But I have neither of those. I have these Frostbites, which does the same thing as my 2-mana 2/2. It trades for their 2-drops and 3-drops. But it doesn't do the things that my early creatures don't do, which is to break through a creature that's like a 4/4 or a 3/6 vigilance. I've lost that card earlier. basically anything with 4 toughness, it's going to be pretty hard for this deck to actually break through. I don't have that much evasion. I only have 1 Stalwart Valkyrie. I just have like a lot of ground creatures that don't necessarily match up that well. I'm very reliant on drawing a lot of these removal spells in order for my small guys to break through. But even when I draw removal spells, I don't attack for that much because it's only 2 damage per creature. And so the deck actually does not connect that well with itself. And it's very interesting because it looks like a good deck, but I think actually isn't. So there's some things worth noting is that in red-white aggro, like cards like Frostbite are just not really what you want because you want things that break you through big blockers. Bounding Goals and to extend Squash, especially for some giants, like those are good. And if you have a ton of removal spells and not equipments and pump spells, you want to have your creatures be more impactful individually so that you can use the fact that your removal spells buy you time to get to those creatures and can help support them. Because a big creature like a Craven Hulk does not need an equipment. And it doesn't, like, it really likes run amok, like really, really likes run amok. And I wish I had more of these. But even when I don't have run amok, it just, yeah, you don't need to make it, give it like +1/+1, but you do really like to clear away the opponent's bigger creatures so you can get in for 4 a turn, plus like attacking with your 5-drop or just more Stalwart Valkyries. Like basically you need more in the top end of this curve and less of these smaller 2-drops. Cavalry get a differentiate rater, get an exam because they are going to like, obtain value later in the game. So these are actually good 2-drops, where the rest of them aren't. I actually also have like a Battlefield Reps on my sideboard. This card is really good normally in red-white aggro, usually because you like enchant it or equip it or something. But I don't do any of those things. And if you can't buff its power, it's just such an individually low power card. And so what actually happens in the games is that I play some 2/2s, I curve out really, really well, and I get my opponent low. I kill some of their good blockers, but then play more good blockers, and suddenly I can't break through. And my cards are individually so low power level that it's going to be hard for me to overpower my opponent's mid-range cards. Like when they get to play the 4-mana, 5-mana, 6-mana cards. Like this deck is very dead to something like a Ravenous Lintworm. And I will just inevitably flood out. I only have 15 lands in the deck, but it doesn't matter because flooding is not just about your land count. It's also about like how much value can each of your spells obtain. And if your spells are just very low value, if your spells are just 2/2s, then you don't need to have drawn that many lands in order to have just too little power in your draw, if that makes sense. And so obviously I could make these 2/2s be real cards if I had the correct augmentations to them, like equipment, as I keep saying, but that's just not the case here. So I'm not quite sure how to fix this deck. Got a tip that maybe I should add a second Fearless Pup. I should cut a Story Seeker. The Rune of Speed is not very good, and I should probably add a Warhorn Blast, maybe over Frostbite. Maybe we actually end up keeping the Rune of Speed. It's not very good though. Maybe add 300 Longboat. I don't know. It's pretty bad with Warhorn Blast. Maybe even add a Doomscar Oracle just because 3 damage is better than 2 damage. We're probably not desperate enough to add Master Skull because 5 and a 4/4 vanilla is a bit too low of a rate, but I would have loved to have some of the 5 mana 5/4 in this deck because of my mana removal spells. So anyway, I just wanted to show that like this is something that also happens. And also for us coaches, we definitely also like have bad draft decks and make mistakes, and it's a learning experience. And sometimes the poor decks are the ones we learn more from than if I just post the good decks. So that's just what I had to say. I won't play anything with this though. I am also like, so I was so close to Mythic. I was a couple wins away, but now I'm moving a bit further down. I've only been like actually like playing ranked in limited, so my constructed rank is not very impressive, which is not gonna be great for the games we play later, but that's okay. Anyhow, let's get started on let's get started on the metagame here. So we had another SCG last weekend. These events are just great for showing us the metagame. And we see that it was won by Chris Larson, a fellow Dane on Mono Red Aggro. I wonder what the best way. I think the best way to do this is actually just to show this slide here. So this is from @mcg_data on Twitter. Just a great site for looking into like the current makeup of the Magic formats, especially standard and historic, as these guys just extract all the data from the big tournaments that happen during the weekend and compile them into these very neat sheets. So there's a lot of Magic going on here this weekend. And if you combine all these numbers from all the qualifiers to the SCG, the SCG event itself, Big Magic, you get to this meta game where Salsa is the most popular deck at like 16.5%, which is fair. It was also the most popular deck last weekend. It was a bit more popular then, so it's fallen a bit from grace. It still does not boast a very good win rate, like just slightly shy of the 50 mark. And I think a large part of this is that the metagame has really reacted to Sultai by playing Faceless Haven aggro decks. We saw that happen last week with a rise in Mono Red aggro that did really well last week, and Mono White would also just super well last weekend as a new deck. As a result, both Mono Red and especially Mono White have gotten a lot more popular. And we now see, you know, alongside Gruul here, like just the next, well, actually the next 4 decks are just aggro decks here. But I'm gonna save talking about the Naya combo deck. So the next 3 here are just all aggro decks, all with fairly good win rates. Mono Red did especially well in the SCG itself. If you go down here, we'll see it wasn't not even as popular as Gruul. It had one of the highest win rates. But yeah, all of these have done fairly well. Actually, maybe I should show the decks here. Yeah, it seems like a good idea. So when I talk about Sultai Ultimatum, let me see if this is a good. Did it look like how I wanted it to look? I should have prepared that better. Yeah, this looks fine. Oh wait, maybe this one's better. Maybe this one looks more stuck. Yeah, this is all good. So Sultai Ultimatum, basically, it's based around Emergent Ultimatum. I'm gonna do this very quickly because a lot of you already know this. Based around Emergent Ultimatum, where you can search your library for a bunch of monocolor cards. Kaldheim brought us a bunch of new good monocolor cards to search for, like Volky, which you basically just get to cast the Tybalt side. There's not even Warinclex in this deck, but normally you play a Warinclex. All runs Epiphany, and obviously you also have the Cure Best of Sea God in these decks as like another thing to get. So there's a lot of like really good big spells to get with the card now, which means that often she's gonna end up winning the game. I'm not gonna go through the combinations, but it's very good. You end up ramping into with stuff like Cultivate, Wolfwillow Haven, Binding of the Old Gods. And since you have all these like, you know, tutor targets you don't really want to draw, it's kind of a perfect deck for Yorion, especially since Yorion also works very well with Binding of the Old Gods. And so it's like a nice neat little package that we have here. The rest of the deck is usually filled with sweepers and interaction. You can go more ramp heavy. You can go more interactive, like more controlling. You can completely skip the Yorion part altogether and be a Sultai Adventures deck. I've seen that happen. Using stuff like Beanstalk Giant to ramp into the Emergent Ultimatum and playing stuff like Innkeeper. So that's very interesting too. So these decks are going in a bit of different directions, underlying some experimentation. The interesting thing here is also that there's usually an increase in counter spells in these decks. This one in particular does not have that because of the mirror matches, but then that actually makes you weaker against the aggro decks, of which there are a lot. So it's kind of like a they kind of stretched a little bit, like trying to beat the mirror, which is the most popular deck, or at least has been this week, and trying to beat aggro decks. Okay, what does Mono Red look like? So this is just a very stock Mono Red list. So let's pull that up. So we kind of know the drill. It's Annex plus Embercleave, Torbran, Rob of the Ridge, like all that stuff. People figured out the 5-late charge was the best 1-drop outside of Akuum Hellhound. Okay, that's good. So the thing that really like broke this deck, made this deck break through, is that we have Faceless Haven now, which is an incredible payoff for being a monocolored deck. It looks like a snow payoff. It is, but it's more that the only decks that can actually afford to play all snowlands are the monocolored decks. So in reality, it looks like it's actually plays out as a monocolor payoff. Having all these snowlands also lets red play Frostbite, which is a very efficient removal spell, especially in this very aggro heavy meta. So it makes sense that we're playing 4 main deck now. Other than that, the deck just like looks kind of how it has always looked. Noteworthy highlight of a very cute tech card here, Emperor of Paladin. This card against Sultai just can't dodge attack a lot of the interaction because it comes into play with counters on it, so you can't get hardness acted, can't get eliminated, doesn't get hit by Shadow's Verdict. It gets to hit in for 5 before it trades for 4 mana from the opponent if the Binding of the Old Gods hit. Like it just lines up so well in a lot of cases. But especially the thing where dodges hardness act is huge. So I just wanted to explain that card. But anyway, that's mono red. Moving on. We got. I'm not really gonna show Gruul because we already know what that looks like. But I am gonna show you mono white. Is this a stock mono white list? Yes, it is. This is the mono white list that did pretty well like the weekend before and has as a result like gotten very popular. It plays a bunch of like just the powerful white cards like Luminarch Aspirant, Seasoned Hellblade, Skyclave Apparition, Raidane, Giant Killer, stuff like that. Watch out, the Fallen is a good one drop. It has like Sulfur Savior and Alsage to kind of protect these cards, and especially trying to protect the combo of Maul of the Skyclaves plus Halvar, God of Battle. So that's a way where you can basically build your own Embercleave by just, well, you put Maul on a creature, it gets flying like buffed, and then Halvar gets a double strike, and that's how they die. Sentinel's Eyes looks a bit weird, but notably Halvar says enchanted or equipped creatures. So if you have Sentinel's Eyes on something, Halvar will get that card double strike as well. So that's the reasoning for that. Otherwise, this looks like a fairly stuck and outdated build, but it's just good to know what we're working with. New builds are, well, I'll get to that. All right, and we've seen the Gruul list. So yeah, those are just the one I wanted to talk about. But basically all of these I think are fine choices. Gruul just keeps being like doing a bit above 50% win rate. So I think it's like a fine deck. If you have played it for a long time and you know it well, I will recommend you to play Gruul, but make sure that your list is up to date and tuned for the expected metagame. So you cannot really go there with last week's Gruul deck. I would expect that the blue splash that we've seen in Gruul decks recently, especially negating the Sinful Stroke to beat Sultai Ultimatum, I'm not sure that will be worth it. I don't expect Sultai to be the most popular deck this weekend. And so take that into consideration as you build your Gruul deck. Make sure you have enough anti-aggro decks, anti-aggro cards, especially when you're on the draw, so that you can position yourself to just not die to an aggro deck on the draw. Because Gruul does have the tools to beat aggro, but you need to commit the slots to do it and transform yourself into a controlling mid-range deck. Elder Gargaroth, cheap removal, stuff like that. Potentially great hand. Maybe cutting your own Embercleaves, cutting your own Brushfire Elementals for sure. As for the new deck here, Naya combo, I'll show you that now. This is also what we're going to play some games with. Actually, I'll just show you the list I have in here. So this list got built during the week, did very well. CFT SOC3 is the creator. And basically it takes the shell that we have known from like the beginning of the format that was using Showdown of the Skulls in an adventure shell, in a Naya adventure shell, because you want Shepherd of the Flock to bounce your Showdown, and this is an adventure, so that goes really well with Innkeeper, and then you kind of fill out the rest of the stuff, because a lot of the other good cards to play with Showdown are the adventures, because they're modal. So they're very flexible with how you can play them. People figured out the mana in this deck was not good enough. You kind of like grinded a lot, but then didn't kill the opponent, and it was put down again. People tried red-white Showdown. I did too. It was not very good. People just went back to straight Gruul. Like people also trying splashing Showdown in Gruul, but also just stopped doing that because the meta was not really about that. When the control deck just kills you when it gets to 7 mana, you do not want to just try and beat them by drawing extra cards. And that's what these people figured out, that yeah, you don't beat them by drawing extra cards. You beat them by drawing a few cards, and you can set up a combo kill. And what is the combo kill here? Well, the thing is that Goldspan Dragon also triggers when it's the target of a spell. Obviously, we know that's when it gets harvest acted, but it also includes when it's the target of your own spell. So the plan here is to play this with some pump spells, like Unleash the Fury specifically, that doubles the power of a creature, and then combining that with Kasul's Fury, the flaying effect, and you just kill people. The especially cool thing with this, you also have Shadir Shelter to protect it, which still produces your treasure, so you can still unleash the Fury. It all works out very neat. And this combo with the dragon is a 16 damage out of nowhere. You can do turn 5 if you have a Shepherd as well. So you go like attack with Goldspan Dragon, unleash the Fury, hit for 8. Then you sacrifice the treasure you have left over for Shepherd, bounce your own Goldspan Dragon. It triggers again before Shepherd resolves. So before the Goldspan Dragon gets bounced, you will now have a mana floating and a new treasure token. You can then sacrifice that to Kasul's Fury and kill them. So in that way, Shepherd of the Flock can act as a sort of ritual as well. The original list had just 4 copies of all of these cards, but we have moved them a bit down. This is a list from K Prince, Christoph Prince, popular streamer, PT Finals winner, and my teammate. So I figured it would be very classy of me to just take his deck here. Also, you can do like the Unleash the Fury plus Kazul Fury combo on Lovestruck Beast to just kill them. You can combine multiple Unleash Furies on like a card that would give double strike. This is actually pretty good in multiples. You can combine all of this with the Showdown of the Skulls counters to like build a huge creature, and they might just die at instant speed. There's a lot of things going on here, a lot of cutesy things you can do. Normally, Goldspan Dragon does not work that well with Showdown because you don't want to have cards that are more expensive than Showdown to work with it. But because this deck is so well equipped to take advantage of Goldspan Dragon's ability to just like repeatedly have spells played on it, you can actually take real good advantage of your Showdown. So what this deck does is that it actually does line up well against Sultai Ultimatum because it has this combo kill. So the Sultai Ultimatum deck does a lot of sorcery speed things, a lot of big things tapping out and such, and this deck can just go like boom, boom, you are dead. In one swing, and can in that way like work around a Shadow's Verdict or something like that. Like sometimes they want to overextend into a Shadow's Verdict so that it can untap and just kill the opponent. This version in particular is moving a bit lower on the combo kill. It is worth noting that Kasul's Fury, you don't like it is actually often played as a land, and you absolutely should do that because Shepherd of the Flock can just return the land to your hand. So you can cast the Fury side again. Very important interaction to be aware of. Same with Shadir Shelter and Shadow Skull Smashing, but it comes up a lot with a Fury, I imagine. However, they are cut a little bit because the tap lands are not great. And they have been replaced with Temple of Fury, Temple of Plenty, which is also a tap land, but I guess it's a green one, which can be quite important. Noteworthy changes here. Wait, hold on. There aren't any. I need the Archon in the sideboard here. So Archon of Absolution is the new tech card that was also introduced with this deck. So now that we have a mono white deck that tries to win in the air or tries to win by a lot of attacking heroes, having a 3/2 protection from white is just incredible flying. Like, it's so hard to attack through this with mono white's main game plan. It's hard to swarm around it, which would be the one way to beat something that's big. None of the removal spells can target it. It's really, really good. So I'll add like 3 copies to the sideboard. Yeah, I don't actually know where they were caught. I will Dreadeth Magistrate is pretty good in the mirror. Redcap Melee is pretty good in the mirror. I think I'll cut a Glass Casket, the Extron War, and maybe a melee. We'll see how that works. Yeah. We also have Clothis as a new tech card added for the red-black matchup and for cycling. I'll get to cycling. Red-black, we've seen that before. It's a Craxa deck. But that's one of the few bad matchups for this deck, and Clothis nicely shores that up. It's also pretty good against Rogues, which is another one of the bad matchups. But yeah, Archon of Absolution is important to keep an eye on because, let's go back here, as we'll see in the data sheet. So Naya combo, 60% win rate, like very, very good win rate. The new best performing deck of the tournament. And it's like a completely new one. Right? Like this really shows how quickly the metagame evolves. That we had some talk on Twitter and Twitch about this new deck that came out. People started trying it leading up to the weekend. People played it in the qualifiers. And as it did well in the qualifiers, more and more people stuck to it. And that just meant there was actually like a fairly large portion of the field in the actual SCG tournament where people played it after it, or like when people played the deck, like maybe not having played it before, like only played a few matches, only been playing it for a couple of days, and people are just switching to this deck very late into the metagame, and that's something that happens a lot right now, which is really cool about the standard format, that it changes in this way where like a new deck comes in sidelines. The same thing happened with Ultimatum 2 weeks ago, and so it's interesting to see how Naya does from here. I would expect it to be a lot more popular this weekend. It's gonna basically follow the same trajectory as Mono White. We'll look at that in a moment, and possibly be a lot more popular, so you should be aware of it. If you look at the win rate here, like it has done so well against the top decks here. It's worth noting. This matchup against Mono Red Aggro though is not too telling. It could easily be the Mono Red decks. I'm not too aware of what the Naya deck does, so it is very possible that you should make sure that your Naya deck can actually beat red. And maybe I should not cut all those red cat melees. You also see here, like the best winner it has is against Mono White Aggro. I think a large part of this is that it was playing all these Archons of Absolution in the sideboard, and the Mono White decks were not ready for that. However, something really interesting has happened. So I'm part of a testing team for the Pro Tour. That does limit the amount of information I can share, which is sometimes unfortunate, especially throughout this month until the Pro Tour, or the set championship, which is at the end of March. I will be a bit more increasingly limited in what I can actually share about standard. So that's awkward. I'll try and do my best. But something that they were talking about and that I can actually share is the fact that, okay, well, what do we do if we're playing White Weenie, but we can't beat Archon of Absolution? Well, is there any sort of colorless answer? And yes, there is, and it's not very good. It is Scalding Cauldron. So we figured that out. Okay, we put them in the sideboard. It is an okay answer, especially if you happen to play Lurrus. It actually gets a bit of an extra buff. Now, something very interesting happened where Paolo tweeted kind of a contest for people to try and guess. Like he said that he has put the worst card he's ever put in a PT deck in his deck for this weekend. And it's not a Pro Tour this weekend, it's like the MPL playoffs. So all the MPL pros are preparing deck lists for that, and there's going to be a big reveal on Saturday. That's very important. But to see what they've come up with and what they think of standard. But Paulo basically tells us his deck choice by having people guess which card. And since we had already figured out this tech, we figured, oh, it might actually be that they are also on the same thing. And so Matt Sperling, who was separate from Paulo, also writing in some Discord group that he would expect the pros to come up with Scalding Cauldron as an answer to Archon. And it's very interesting how this works, where we have a lot of like different minds who do not work together, but they're going to think in the same veins. They're going to be like, okay, well, we have identified this problem of Archon. How do we deal with it? Well, you're going to have some answer that isn't white to deal with it. There could be splashing Bone Crusher Giant, or it could be searching up what sort of colorless answers do we have. And we do have this Scalding Cauldron. And so, yeah, people are adding the Scalding Cauldrons to the sideboard now. And it's very interesting. That's going to make the Archons worse. And maybe that's why actually they were cut from Christoph Prince's deck. And maybe that's why they shouldn't be played anymore. On the other hand, though, if you have more copies of it, because this is a 4-mana answer to the Archon, so there's not really a downside to drawing 2 Archons. It's actually an upside, because if the opponent deals with it, it's going to cost them 4 mana, so you're not down on the tempo. And if they enter the first one and you then have the second one, then, well, they need another Scalding Cauldron. They have very limited amounts of those, and they do not run Lurrus typically. But maybe they should. Honestly, it might be better than Redain right now. I actually could see that the Mono White deck should run Lurrus. They're also often running Shadow Spear instead of the Sentinel's Eyes now. If you can make permanent your opponent controllers hexproof and indestructible. I wonder what exactly that's for, actually. Oh, you can give your creature trample. That's the whole thing. You give your creature trample so you can attack through the Archon. And yeah, I think this is just a better version of the Sentinel's Eyes. Obviously, it's not going to be as cheap to equip, but it's going to have a lot more impact, especially in this aggro meta. And I think also like the trample part of this is going to be very key. So that's worth noting. And yeah, I actually do think Lurrus could be a pretty good card in your white aggro decks right now instead of Redain. Redain is basically meant for Sultai. However, I might here underrate the fact that both mono white and mono red are faceless Haven aggro decks, which means all their lands are snow lands. And so Redain actually matches up quite well against that. Having all your opponent's lands commit it's red tapped is fairly good. So yeah, it might still be better than Lurrus. Right, but that's just something that I wanted to show you of the way things are moving right now. If we look at, oh yeah, I also wanted to show you another deck that has come out and won a lot. So it did a little bit the weekend before, where it had, I think, 1 copy in the top 8 of the SCG event. But now here we have 2 copies in the top 12 of Jeskai Cycling. And it is, wasn't there 2? Maybe it's just 1. No, there was 1 in 12th place as well. And yeah, so this is a kind of a blast from the past. We all know the drill. It's Flourishing Fox, you know, the Dragon Stinger, Villain Rescuer, and Scene Flare, and just like a ton of cyclers. This one splashes blue for, first of all, counter spells, so that it can match up well against Sultai and Improbable Alliance. This deck came up because it lines up very, very well against Sultai. Sultai does not run that many counter spells. It does run some creature interaction, but they might not be cheap enough to deal with Flourishing Fox, especially since they have 4 Heartless Act, leaning on those as early removal spells. And if you're in the play, Heartless Act does not kill Flourishing Fox. And then on top of that, the Cycling deck gets to boarding counter spells as well. So the Cycling deck lines up quite well against Sultai Ultimatum. It's actually the best deck against Sultai, if you're looking at these win rates. And that makes sense. However, it struggles a lot against aggro decks, except for the Naya combo deck, which is slow enough and does not have, like, it does not have near as much interaction. So it's actually kind of weaker to the whole Dragon Stinger, or not Dragon Stinger, but the Valiant Rescuer and Flourishing Fox. Like, these creatures are going to be better, and it's probably also going to be more weak to the Zenith Flare part of the deck. And the way you can beat that is with the Clothos that has now been added to the sideboard of the Naya of these Naya decks. So, because as you see, like, the bad matchups, Cycling and Rakdos, and both of those can be shored up with some life Colossus action. So that's basically where the metagame has been. I will also note this deck from Rivals member Chris Botello, who is now he hit Mythic #1 with this deck. So I've also seen other people play this, and it's very interesting. It is basically an Obosh the Prey Future deck. We have seen Obosh plus the Adventure Package before. Now that the Lucky Clover is gone, basically all your cards are going to be the 3-mana cards that you can play on the 2-drop, like Raging Borrower and Bone Crusher Giant. It's also kind of neat how Sword Coming kind of works well with this too, because you can just foretell them too, and that's another way you get to spend your mana on turn 2, even though you have no 2-drops, which is like the main issue of an Obosh deck, right? But instead of doing Genesis Ultimatum, as we've done before, we now employ the combo of Goldspan Dragon plus Orwell's Epiphany. And I've seen people say that Unleash the Fury is just a worse copy of Orwell's Epiphany, as both of them are very good with Goldspan Dragon. I do agree with that statement, kinda. The Unleash the Fury does other things. It can kill immediately. The Orwell's Epiphany is a 7-mana spell. You need to untap with your dragon in order to use it. But both of them are good with dragon. They're not going to be good in the same deck with dragon, but that's another thing you can do, which might be better than doing Unleash the Fury, especially since the Unleash part is not that good against aggro, whereas Orwell's Epiphany is fairly good against aggro. So there might be something here. It could be worth checking out. I just wanted to notify you of this deck. Also note the 4 Elder Gargaroth in the sideboard. Possibly planning to cut the Dragons post board. I don't know. It's very interesting, at least, this deck. You also get to have Great Henge, which kind of ramps you into Epiphany too. When you play like turn 3 Lovestruck Beast, turn 4 Henge, that leads you into 7 mana on turn 5, which is the Epiphany. You're not going to draw cards from the flyers, but you're at least going to gain some board presence and get an attack step in maybe, and get some extra life and maybe stabilize more. Because one of the issues with Great Henge is that you can easily just get ran over by an Embercleave. But if you can just gain a bit more life and like get a bit more blockers, maybe you can actually get around that. Um, all right, I'm just trying to get an overview. Yeah, I wanted to tell you something else about what we're gonna expect the metagame to look like. This is another good graph from the Dear MTG data, folks. And we can see how the metagame has shifted from week to week. I will mostly note the week 3 and week 4 meta, because that's what's going to affect the week 5 thing a lot. And I think we see an interesting trend here. We have like this, Sultai Ultimatum emerging on week 2. See what I did there? Rocketing up to be the most played deck is like a very cool deck and seemed to be very strong during the first week. And we already see people here like trying to attack it with mono red aggro, especially popularized by Crocace, and mono white appearing as a new deck with a high win rate. This meant that mono white then skyrocketed, not as much, but a little bit more. Sultai Ultimatum did not have a great weekend, so it got a little bit less popular, whereas mono red got more popular alongside the aggro decks. Now we see like a very aggro heavy top. And we have the Naya combo deck springing as a new deck, and cycling springing as a new deck. And these decks did very well. So I would expect these decks to be more popular, continually pushing out stuff like Rakdos. And I think Sultai Ultimatum numbers are also going to be lower now. So I would actually expect Mono Red to be the most popular deck this weekend. Especially since it also won the SG event, and it's usually quite popular in these arena qualifiers. So do be especially prepared for mono red aggro. You can absolutely play the deck yourself. It is very good. Make sure you have a good plan for the mirror when you're on the draw. I can't keep saying that enough, but you should change up your deck when you're playing on the draw in these matchups. The short version is on the play, threats are better. On the draw, removal spells are better. So removal spells are actually not necessarily where you want to be in the mirror when you're on the play. And you can do stuff like cutting your cleaves and such when you're on the draw, whereas you absolutely want them on the play. Depends a little bit on how the exact matchup plays out. So yeah, I also think mono white could be a very good choice. The fact that we know that Paolo Vitor has chosen it, like that's something I would really want to listen to and try and copy. Knowing the Scalding Cauldron tech as well, the deck can definitely be tuned, like from the list we saw here. It is not necessarily optimal. Like I've seen people with 4 Halvar, and I think definitely need 4 Mauls. A couple of Shadow Spears is nice. I don't think you need Legion Angels in the main deck. Maybe at all. Like you just want that sideboard space or something else. Like you want to have the Archon of Absolution from the mirrors. You want to have Scalding Cauldrons to answer the Archon of Absolution, and you just need that sideboard space. And I think the Legion Angels get cut for it. The Drenith Magistrates are actually good again because they're quite good against Naya. They're actually really good against Naya because they shut off Showdown and they shut off Adventure. Not completely, but at least weakens both of those spells. And like since both elements are present there in the Naya deck, that's a reasonably good card. It also dodges Bone Crusher Giant, which is not nothing. Plus, against Sultai, you can bring them in. Not sure they're good enough because they don't provide enough pressure, but it does shut off Emergent Ultimatum. And if they want to foretell anything, that also doesn't work. So yeah, I don't really think the Legion Angels are that good against anything. They're probably pretty good in the mirror though, so that's worth noting. If I had to guess. But we'll see. And maybe you could do the lures thing. I don't know. Soul Lancet notably good against cycling, but I'm not sure they're actually needed. I'm not sure how much popular cycling is going to be. It's kind of a bit of a weird one. Oh, we actually have CFT SOC top solving the event too with the Naya Flink deck. And yeah, you can see this is the original deck, just like a ton of copies of these. So the list from K-Prince has cut down on some of these tap lands, adding just more untap lands, like an extra plains, an extra forest, a temple actually. But oh yeah, and the smashing, Shadow Skull smashing. So cutting a bit down on that part of the deck. But yeah, we also see here, we definitely see like the 3 Archon of Absolution. So yeah, prepare for an aggro heavy mana, but don't lose the Sultai Ultimatum. Like, just make sure that you have a reasonable plan. But if you're playing one of the Fated Save and aggro decks, you don't need to try that hard. If you're playing Gruul, it gets a bit more difficult because I think actually the win rate difference between playing counterspells and Gruul and not changes a lot in that matchup. And if you can find some efficient way to use your sideboard slots, we can do something that's both good against Ultimatum and against the aggro decks. Not sure what that would be necessarily. Just see if you can find something. Do note that I'm not talking about the Great Henge here. I don't want to board the Great Henge in against Alt Ultimatum. I want to be the tempo deck there, and this is also where the counterspells really help. Oh, wait, I also think it's worth noting, a little fun thing here. If you look at the other category, it just increases the strings from week to week, and yeah, that should be expected. Because yeah, that should be expected because like people are obviously like as more and more the meta gets more and more refined, people are going to be more and more like trying to jump onto what other people are doing rather than just working on their own new brews with the new cards. So it's just like an interesting fact that we see here. You know, like is it Tempo being the most popular deck here at 8%? It was actually more popular, like it was a larger share of the metagame on week 2, but it was no longer the most popular deck. Because like the amount of other like the spread of decks basically condensed, so there were more copies of the most popular decks. And it's very funny that we had Rakdos be like very popular week 2, but then completely fall off again. Like it's always been, at the lower end, but except for week 2 where because that had a pretty good win rate in the beginning, so that's why a bunch of people jumped onto it. Which is also why people see the Naya deck have good win rates and they're just gonna jump onto it. If you can find good ways to beat that and be aware of it, that's gonna help you a lot. Part of that is, for instance, Scalding Cauldron out of mono red, playing stuff like Run Afoul that makes people sacrifice a flyer, or Red Cap melee potentially, like stuff like removal spells that are very good against the Goldspan Dragon can help you. It is worth noting, however, that especially if you're an aggro deck, the Naya deck will board out its combo against you. So just relying on spot removal is not actually that effective because they are, an Innkeeper Showdown of the Calls value deck post board. And so that might not necessarily be what you want to do. But you can also absolutely outgrind them with your own Great Henge, for instance. That's something that Showdown does not outgrind as well. So yeah, it's something you could look into. Or you can just try and beat them with flyers. They don't block that well against those, but you do have the Goldspan Dragon. Anyway, how about we get into some games with this deck? And I have not actually played this deck before. Many excuses. I just crafted it actually. I have not played much standard. This is like from one of the first weeks, so it's outdated white decks. But yeah, let's just see how it goes. Kind of excited. I'll do like 1, maybe 2 matches. So that's too much content, but it's okay. Oh. Okay, I'll try and stop sharing my video here. Maybe that helps. Nope. All right, it seems like I'm still recording. I just want to check that I'm actually connected to the internet. It seems like it. All right, I'll also just cancel this just to make sure. Oh no. Yeah, it is not actually responsive. I can cancel. I'll just close this down. It's definitely easier with just doing this from my laptop, but we'll get through. I do really look forward to trying this deck out. Like, it looks a lot like my kind of jam. The first time I broke through to the Pro Tour, I was also playing a similar double strike combo deck. Like using pump spells and like fling type effects and such. And yeah, I think that strategy is quite appealing. So we'll see how it fares here. It also looks a lot like kind of how I imagined Naya Adventures to look. I thought it would be like no double green, like no Cassandra Mammoth, trying and like no Skycleave apparition, like trying to avoid double cost cards. You can make the mana work, and then have stuff like Brushfire Elemental as your hasty threat that you would punk counters onto, and doing that with Casual's Fury to kill the opponent. But I did not have Unleash the Fury and not even the Goldspan Dragon in my mental image of that deck. Seems like we're against the Overwatch deck, so that's the teamer deck I showed you. That we're number one. And what is this hand? It looks extremely weak. I'm just trying to parse what this deck actually does, but this does not look like it does anything. We have to choose between green or white. We can't get both. We have these tap lands. We can play some 3/1s. Like we can play turn 2 3/1, turn 3 3/1. Like that's just not good enough. So let's mulligan this. Whoa. All right. Yeah, we have to ship this too. We can't cast any spells. So, all right, not a great first run, but now we have the savior of all mulligans, Bone Crusher Giant. So I think we'll put a Giant Kill on the bottom. We still need one, so we can kill the Lovestruck Beast. And I think we put Jerry's Shelter on bottom. I want to keep the Casual Sphere around because I want to be able to bounce that with Shepherd of the Flock. Okay, opponent also mulligans a 5. Interesting. I kind of want this, but I don't think I want to. I really want it. I really want to find a Showdown or an Innkeeper to try and buy me cards back here. So it's going to be the focus. Lovestruck Beast. Okay, I'm not going to kill the token immediately. Actually, I'm just going to play my own Innkeeper now. What's that plan? Maybe that was wrong. Maybe I was supposed to. Yeah, because now they Bone Crusher Giant my Innkeeper. Yeah. Yeah, I might have been supposed to hold my Innkeeper there because I'm on such low number of cards. So you can do white or red. I think I'll do white so I can go use Giant Killer and cast it. All right, so this we know that my opponent does not have another land drop here. They in fact do not. So I'll just play my Lovestruck Beast now. And do I play Shelter? I think so. Once again, I really want to do both parts of Giant Killer in one turn. But yeah, I think I was supposed to hold the Innkeeper. If we go back to that turn, it's a bit too hasty. Okay, so that's going to be the counter spell. Ooh, that's a great draw here. It's especially perfect to cast on turn 4 when you haven't made your land drop yet. Because as you can see here, now I just hit a bunch of lands. And I'm still able to do my stuff. Okay, so opponent just scoops there, which is an odd spot to scoop in because they're not at all dead. Because I just did a bunch of lands. But yeah. They could also be fairly close to dying if because I'm gonna cast a couple spells. I can fling the Lovestruck Beast at them. It also works pretty well with Fury because Fury does not sacrifice an additional. Oh, it does as an additional cast. Sacrifice a creature. Okay. There's another fling variant that does it the other way, where you just when it resolves, just sacrifice the creature. And then in that case, you would be able to put the counter on the creature from the showdown before you sacrifice it. But it doesn't work like that here. All right, so I was against the Teamer Adventures deck. I think we bought in Dragon's Magistrate. They have both Onward Epiphany and the counterspell, plus a bunch of adventures. So it seems like it should be good. Do you want to vote in Scorching Dragonfire? Not particularly. Might do it anyway. At least the Fury seems not great against them. think I just want to turn into a nut combo deck because they have Operation Borrower, which makes me more skeptical of that approach. Oh, maybe I do want Red Cap melee actually, because it deals with their dragon pretty well. And that's very important. Yeah, I think I like that. So also, I think you don't board out the lands too often, but you technically could. Like the double lands, I mean. Because they do get worse as you get less focused on your combo. All right, well, we just have a nice hand here. Bone Crusher, Lovestruck Beast. We've seen these cards before. They do the thing. All right, so let me make sure I sequence my lands right, but I think we have one of each here, so we can just kind of do what we want. I do have Steer Seltzer as an additional white, so I don't need to prioritize double white. So I should do the Branch Love pathway here and do this. Now I lose my ability to make double green, but I have the ability to make double red if I want to. Oh, actually, the Soul's Fury gets in the way of that, right? So should have done Crack Crown pathway. It doesn't get in the way of it, but it means that I already have the option to make double red. But I don't think I can use double green that well, so it's probably okay. Ooh, Magistrate here is amazing. So this is going to be, yeah, so we need to put this on white, and we play Magistrate now. And now these two cards are going to be stranded, which is really good for us. Also, opponent does not run any copies of Scorching Dragonfire because they have this guy, so they can't even do that. All right, and a quick concession there. Yeah, we can definitely do another game, that's for sure. Do you get 4 ranks per win when you're in gold? I guess so. And it's been a while since I've been in gold and constructed, so I kind of forget. All right, let's just run another one here. Try and showcase the deck a little bit better because both those games were not very showcasing. It just kind of showed, you know, Lovestruck Beast, Bone Crusher interactions the way we've all seen before. Yeah, do note, do as I say, not as I do. Don't just play out your Innkeeper, especially when you're on the multi-5. But add something to Showdown anyway, so make that irrelevant. I want to see some combo kills here, though. Try and see what the deck is actually made of. No, it is worth noting, like, that really is not the main focus of the deck, because in a lot of cases you do board out that part post-board. Just having access to it is what allows you to beat stuff like Gruul and like Genesis Ultimatum decks and stuff like that. Oh, I didn't mean to say Gruul, I meant Sultai Ultimatum. Though it's possible you also do have it against Gruul post-board, because they don't interact that well with the combo. It's a way for you to beat the Henge, but then again, people don't really play Henge, so. The mana base here is tricky, and I can see why you don't want to rely too much on all these tap lands being a part of your mana base, which the deck really did do before. I think it had 20 lands plus 8 like spell lands. So there's only 28 lands. I'm not saying only because that's a lot, but that means that it's actually a significant amount of your mana base. Like if you compare it to Gruul, which oftentimes around 30 lands in total, and this deck has it actually has a higher curve than Gruul used to have. With Showdown and Dragon. Obviously, Showdown means you hit your land drops more often later, but even then, you also have 3 color decks you need to account for that. And then obviously you have all these lands that come into play tap now, like with 8 tap lands, plus obviously the Fable Passages. So it's not a great spot to be in. Oh, okay. Something went wrong there. With the algorithm. Got out of it. All right, let's try again. Perfect. I mean, we have a Lovestruck Beast. We're probably gonna play this guy as a 3-1 already. Oh, okay, so we are in a mirror match, it seems. Or against Gruul. But yeah, don't be too afraid of just playing this one out. Sometimes you just need to play to the board. It's better than doing nothing with your turn. It is just straight Gruul. Okay. So it's kind of nice that the Shepherd can just trade for the Brushfire Elemental. Especially now that I drew a second one. I really don't mind this. I'm not planning to attack with my token, but I guess if they can remove my Shepherd, that's going to mean that I take more damage from the Innkeeper. Oh no. Okay, so now we can't block the Brushfire Elemental. Okay, well, now we couldn't block it anyway. They're going to sack it now. Yeah, I can see we just traded 1 damage for 1 damage by attacking there, so maybe it was not the bravest. Plus, the way we win here, it's kind of in multiples of 5, of like 4 with the Goldspan Dragon. Yeah, I'm going to play my Lovestruck Beast now. Hopefully it's going to brick wall opponent's board. I'm not going to make the same mistake of attacking for 1 again there. $16. Magical number 16. But this looks like an Embercleave. However, if I just block like this, what do they cleave? Like they kind of have to cleave here, right? And they lose their Innkeeper and their Brushfire. So yeah, they don't actually have any creatures left over. So I think I'm okay with that. That's why you leave back the token there. Very important. Okay, this I am not too happy with. Like drawing another dragon there is pretty clunky. We do also have a decent amount of tap lands now, so there's a good chance that we just won't be able to play up the spell next time. So it feels more like I'm showcasing the downside of this deck right now. But then again, we're so close to being able to survive this attack, but we can't quite do it. Okay, so we put this on white, I think. Sacrifice this to go get red. The issue is that the 1 damage from before actually comes back to haunt me here. Because if I was at 11, I could just attack for 4 now. And I would not die to my opponent's crackback, but I have to leave back my dragon now, which is very awkward. But he's... Oh, okay. And that's game, right? Well, we can draw another Unleash the Fury to just kill the opponent. So that's cool. But that's what we absolutely need to draw. And I did not. So, yeah, okay. So the 1 damage did not matter anyway. But it wouldn't let me attack with the Goldspan Dragon, being a 1 more life point, because the Bone Crusher plus Embercleave is only 10 damage. And then with the Innkeeper being blocked by 3-1, that would make me survive. Obviously, I would have just died if I did that, but I basically died anyway. So for the matchup, I definitely want Wilt. Definitely want Scorching Dragonfire. Kind of want Red Cap melee. I don't like Shepherd too much. Don't like these Unleash the Fury. Don't like too many Goldspan Dragons. I think this is what we do. We definitely saw a big downside of the Unleash Fury there. It's possible I should be pointing out some showdowns as well. But maybe we're able to interact enough with the hand here. Okay. How do we curve this out? Actually, it works fine, right? Temple, Shadow Skull, Branch Loft, Field Passage. It's just so important in Standard right now to like think about, you know, your entire land sequence from the early turns. Red Cap melee. Does this solve an issue that I don't already have solved? Because I have 2 removal spells in hand. I have no answer for Lovestruck Beast. This one does not help against Lovestruck Beast. It does help against opposing Bone Crushers, but I can just trade for those. I think the only thing this helps me against is that I don't already have covered. Because also like Brushfire Elemental I can answer pretty easily. Is Goldspan Dragon, but it's very far away, so I'm gonna bottom it. Okay, well, that did not work. I think I'll just shock myself here. Obviously, we do signal that we have a Bone Crusher here, which might affect my opponent's decisions, but at least we get to just deal them 2 damage. So we basically take 3 damage to deal them 2, and maybe we affect their decision to like not play a Brush Fire Elemental this turn, even though they could have. Okay, so Showdown is very good. That gives us a game plan. I think I want to put this on whites. Let me think that through. I think it's better on white. We can get green with this one if we need to anyway. We have the double red from the Shadow Skull. Though I would like if I could actually cast my Shadow Skull. All right, so I don't want to play my red cap melee right here. I drew another source that can be the double green, so that's kind of perfect. So that means I get to keep my Shadow Skull in hand. I can fetch the second red with my Fabled Passage. I can go red cap melee, kill this, attack for 4, play a second Bone Crusher. And then I have the Showdown up for next turn, which again, I want to wait with playing this card until it's turn 5 and I haven't played my land drop yet. Because that way, if you hit 2 lands of Showdown, you get to play both of them. All right, so now I'm fairly far ahead, but obviously a single Aggro War can completely swing that. And I'm not even ahead in life total, actually. Because I got myself 5 damage. It's kind of funny. The opponent hasn't really done anything, but I'm at 13. I need Broken Bow. Okay. So yeah, I think we just... Oh, we could actually just Shadow Skull to kill this and get in for a bunch of damage. Actually, I don't mind that. Because again, I want to wait with my Showdown for as long as possible. Because if I can play Showdown plus one of the spells I hit off of it, that also makes me able to like play more spells, essentially. So I think I just want to go ahead and do this. It puts them in a very awkward spot, because now they need to deal with both Bone Crushers next turn. So if they just have something like a Goldspan Dragon, that's just not going to cut it here. A single removal spell doesn't cut it. Cresting Beast, like, sure, it takes some damage, but they have to trade it off now and go to 2 life. I kind of want to have red mana up here, so I could hit the red cap melee. I can hit. Yeah, then I would have to play my land first. No, I wouldn't. I think we just tap this one for mana. We just do it like this. I think that's okay. Can you another Bone Crusher for lethal right now? All right. I think I will want to play one of these out. Obviously, it's a bit of an issue that I don't have access to double green now, but that's okay. The 1-1 token is also going to be lethal because of the counters from Showdown. But yeah, if I could have just had double green and played both of them, that would have been nice. Anyway. Oh, we can also just bounce up Bone Crusher here. With the Shepherd. Like, that's also, like, Shepherd is so nice with the adventure cards. So it does let us grind pretty well. Okay, do I want to bring in Granite Magistrate on the draw? I don't think so. It's actually possible since I was on the play, I did not need all this removal. Now that I'm on a draw, I think I do. Clothis does not really cut it, I don't think. Maybe I just want Shepherd instead of a single dragon here. because I can block some other things. Or I can save my stuff from a removal spell. That doesn't work as well on the draw either. I don't think I want too many dragons. Sure. I do have green mana, right? Yeah, I do, from this one. Okay, Showdown is nice. That gives us this plan. Let's play this one here. Oh, wait, hold on. Maybe I play Shadow Scroll now, actually. I wanted to save it, but now I can see a world where actually I might want to play out all my... where I want to save the life points. But then again, maybe not. I think I'm going to go ahead and save it here. Just the Needle Verge pathway. I can't really kill the Lovestruck Beast before they get to Henge mana, so that's awkward. Oh, this is nice. I got a good target for my Bone Crusher. But obviously we're going to be in trouble against that Lovestruck Beast. Might even want to kill the 1/1 token here. Maybe even with just a Shadow Skull smashing, killing the 1/1 token. There's a lot of ways this can go wrong, but yeah, I think there are maybe too many ways this can go wrong. To the point where I'm just supposed to play my Bone Crusher. I think I will put this one on. Give myself the option to maybe have something else up here. What's the Great Henge? It's awkward. We can't really play Showdown yet. I think we have to wait. But maybe not. It's pretty bad to wait. Okay, I think I'm just going to fire it off now. We might not get as many spells as we wanted to, but I need to try and find a weld or something. Oh no, now we don't have enough green to play all of these. We can just play like Innkeeper, Lovestruck Beast without making the token. Or we can make the token and not do anything else, depending on what we draw here. Wait, why did I attack? I don't think I should have attacked, because that enables the attack from the token here. Should we just take more damage unnecessarily? So that was not great. We can make a Bone Crusher Giant able to trade for the Lovestruck Beast now, which is nice. Oh no. We take so much damage now. Oh, they played the land before the Brush Fire though. Wait, this is just lethal? Yeah, okay, better. Yeah, very punished for for attacking with the Bone Crusher there. That was just not correct. I think I want to do another one. These games have felt kind of unsatisfying for showing off the deck. If anything, it has made the deck look like less of a good idea to play the Fury in the deck. And maybe you just aren't supposed to. Maybe you're supposed to do Brush for Elemental in that spot. Nope. Not enough impact here. A hand where we barely can cast our spells, but I think it's okay. I'm gonna put one Giant Killer on the bottom. And I think I'm just gonna go the Gruul route here. Just that might change things. But no, since I'm against mono red, I think I'm just gonna have to ignore my white cards for now. Because I'm gonna have to be able to use my Bone Crusher. So they have Frostbite in hand. Magda's interesting. Yeah, here I draw like another Naya Fury, and I'm very unhappy with it. Do I attack? I think so. Trying to figure out if there's anything with one toughness that I want to block, but I don't think there is. We're really gonna need to draw an untap land here, though. Or any land, really. Okay. Well, if something had to happen, I think I'm okay with that exact thing. But it also like leads me to believe that they have, you know, bigger things like Torbrand and Dragon in the hand. So that's gonna be trouble for us. Especially Torbrand, since you can't get hit by Giant Killer. Still nothing. Okay, very interesting. Come on. Yeah. We can't attack now because of the Faceless Haven, but I'll just play my Lustric Beast here so that their Faceless Haven can't attack either. And we know they have Frostbite, so Bone Crusher Giant is, you know, not a good play here into the 3 damage Frostbite. Oh, Dwarven Mine, cute. That's kind of cute actually with Magda. It's probably not that good. Still no Goldspan Dragon. It really surprises me. Now they're gonna kill the 1/1 token. Oh, the I'm gonna hit that with a nice, because that is very funny. That does indeed make my Lustric Beast not attack. I have not seen that interaction before. I can attack my 3/1 now. Oh, we don't want to do that. Okay, we play this. It gets hit by something, presumably. No? Oh, so it was the Rimrock Knight they had before, but they just like didn't play it for some reason. I'm starting to think my opponent might not be that competitive, but maybe they have a grand plan here. Or maybe they just knew that the Rimrock Knight wouldn't impact the board much. But even then, just having board presence can be relevant. You're probably an Embercleave deck. Or stuff like Magda, we're just having, yeah, just still not playing it. Now we have the combo, by the way, 16 damage as soon as we draw a 5th land. Oh, also, we could just kill them here if the Lustric Beast goes through. I'm gonna not be too trigger happy on that. Seeing as they could have... Actually, the fact that they're not doing anything... The issue I have here is that if they have double Frostbite, or if they have Bone Crusher Frostbite, they can actually just win the game here. Whereas right now they are in a really bad spot. But if they do anything now, oh wow, okay, that's funny. Nice Embercleave. Alright, despite all these Unleash Furies, we're on the draw now, so they are definitely not good. Managed Trade is okay, right? Also, Robert the Rich is something it stops. It's a nice blocker. We definitely want the welts. We do not want not too many dragons, not too many showdowns, but not too few. We got a Giant Killer. Let's go. Maybe we should have shaved the Shepherd instead of Giant Killer. Giant Killer is like pretty good to just play as a 1-mana card. That it can tap down the Goldspan Dragons later without making tokens, even though the treasures aren't too relevant for mono red. But this also is not like regular mono red. That's Dorwin Mine and Magda. But those could just be additions to like the regular mono red shell. I mean, the opponent just had a very cleave heavy hand, it seems. It's still weird that he didn't play the Rimrock Land Arb earlier. So I will note that you see that I'm boarding out the Unleash Furies in like every matchup we played so far, which might make you think, oh, well, that means we should just cut the card, right, if you always board it out. That's not necessarily true. Some cards are just better in game 1 than they're in game 2 and 3. Like, for instance, a combo card, these, cards that really rely on you having a creature survive when the opponent does not have all the removal spells yet. However, post-board, you can just replace them with whatever interaction actually fits well in the matchup. I think I'm going to keep this hand. It's probably okay. Put this on white, red, green. So we have what we need. I might want double white, honestly. Well, Fearless Liberator. I guess that's a dwarf. Should I just play Drannith Magistrate here? I think so. It's just a good blocker into that. If I might want double white, I think I'm just going to put this as red. Or I could put this as green, actually. But maybe I need double red next turn. Probably not, but maybe. But yeah, I think actually double white is going to be important in this game because I have so many white cards. And stuff like Shepherd and Giant Killer can be white intensive. Okay, that's actually pretty awkward. Wow. So aggressive. That just can't be right. Come on. Let's print on a Magistrate here. And maybe just kill Magda. Like, they didn't have a land drop. Oh, wait, then I did this wrong. Oops. Oh, man. Actually, not having double white here is very awkward. I can pick up my land with Shepherd of the Flock later, so I guess that might be what I have to do. So I think I just have to put this on red. Now, if they get to attack with... Yeah, I think I just killed Magda right now. Yeah, that's not how you play this. I think next turn, if I don't draw a land, I will just Shepherd back my white source, but yeah, they just die there. Okay. Yeah. Matchups in gold, not too exciting. I wish I had better content to show you here. We did get the cool Unleash the Fury kill, so that was nice, but I do think, so I definitely do think there's argument for this deck to be built without the Furies, but I don't think the fact that you're seeing me cut them in these matchups means that I should automatically cut them. And I'm not even sure that if I should cut them against stuff like the Teamer Adventures deck. Maybe on the play I keep them, for instance, but not on the draw. Maybe the same against Gruul too, actually. I'm not quite sure about that. But the whole point is that against stuff like Ultimatum, for instance, it's really important you have the solo kill. So I would not advise you to cut it. And also in game 1, it's going to be better than in the post-board games. But it is also quite clunky. And if you're playing against mono aggro, then it's not actually really worth having. You could even argue that you're supposed to just have them in your sideboard. It's a very cute approach. Those maybe don't even need 4 for what it's worth. I've also seen actually both people in my playtest group and Javier Dominguez and Autumn Bachet suggest that Barge In is a playable card. The reason is that, like, I talked about the quiz that Paolo brought up earlier with, like, guess which unplayable card I have in my deck for this weekend, and both Javier and Autumn independently guessed Barge In, which means they have thought about it, and so have our team for this deck. It's like +2/+2 to an attacking creature, and give trample to all your non-humans until the end of time. That's a way you can kind of build an Embercleave out of this, you know, Unleash the Fury combo. So that card is maybe worth noticing. Especially with Lovestruck Beast, that can be a lot of damage with trample. Anyhow, I think that's it for me right now. Thank you for watching, and see you next week.